Hello, all my fellow book loves. Welcome to my channel, Hoodies, Books, and Vibes. I am Darth Kelmo. This is my first video, so I'm very excited. So, thank you for tuning in to my project here. Taking the time. Today we're going to be deep diving into something very interesting, very fun. It's called The Never King. So there are 32 chapters, 159 pages. If I look this way, it's just my notes are there. And I finished this in about an hour, I want to say. It's not a very long book. It is a dark romance, a tale of a classic, Peter Pan and Peter and Wendy. So there's 3 books in the series total, and it's today we'll just be talking about the first one, and that's going to be The Never King. Before I get into it, disclaimer, I must say there's disclaimers in all over the book, outside of the book, inside of the book. It is 18 years and older. This is from what been told by people that read it before. It is a very trigger warning book, so I want to get that out there. It's pretty graphic in details. It's a young adult book, and I'm very surprised by that. It's spicy and mature, so if you have a young adult, which I would say like 13 to 18 or whatever, and you see that they're reading this book, or if you just wanted to catch up on it, well, you can listen to this video. And you just want a refresher or anything like that, whatever brought you here, I'm happy that you are here. Another disclaimer is that this is going to be very transparent, very open. We're going to go into a deep dive plot detail, and I'll be giving my notes on how I feel about it during that. Take it as you will. If you're going to be like, you totally bash this book or whatever, these are just my opinions and my thoughts. I hate to tell you, but it is what it is, okay? I adore books. I am a writer and I am a reader myself. I'm very active in both. So, yeah. Anyways, here's my backdrop. We started with this. Got some little treats here. A little sweet tarts. Got this. It's from the movie Deadpool, the first one, where it's, says ouchies, sort of a thing. So we got my man Luffy. We got right here, you can't really see him, he's Handsome Jack. I love Handsome Jack. Borderlands, my favorite video game. We got Darth Vader. We got some TIE fighters. I made this when I was in college one day. And we got Ghost right here from Game of Thrones. He's my favorite. And just my favorite colors. And then there's little Grogu, and these are all my Star Wars. These are all my Star Wars books that I've gotten over the years that just make me happy. I love Star Wars. One thing you need to know about me, I love Star Wars. Like, if you can see right there. Yeah, but yeah, I'm a geek. Alright. So we're all about these vibes, and honestly, feel free to stop the video if you don't want any spoilers, because there's going to be a ton of spoilers going through this. Like I said, it's going to be a deep dive. So alright, let's get into it. So I like dark romances personally. I like spins on classics as a writer. As myself, I like them. Fresh new eyes on classic tales is always a good thing. I like that. Gives it a nice little refresher of everything. At first glance, this book intrigued me. I really liked it. I love all the Pan movies, Jeremy Sumpter's, the 1953 version, that we all know and love is the Disney classic. I also like the books. I read the books. I love the plays. I love everything about Peter Pan, really. Who doesn't want to be, adult forever? Trust me, nobody does. And then Tinkerbell movies included. There's something romantic about it. And the summary on the back of it says, the stories were all wrong. Hook was never the villain. For 2 centuries, all of the darlings have been disappearing. On their 18th birthday, sometimes they're gone for a day, some for a month, sometimes a week, but they always return broken. Now, on the afternoon of her 18th birthday, her mother is running around the house making sure all the windows are locked. It's pointless, because when the night falls, he comes for me. And this time, the Never King and the Lost Boys are not willing to let me go. So on that note, I just wanted to point out I got a very different vibe from this book, from the back cover. I thought it was going to be something totally different than what it was, but that's okay. So this book jumps from viewpoints to viewpoints here. And so I'm just going to skip what chapter I'm on and all of that. As for the characters in the backgrounds, we have Winnie, our darling girl, because, of course, right? And she has pale skin, green eyes, dark hair. How many other people we know by that, right? Alright, so we're going to be following her. It's her 18th birthday, of course. And when it started. Mary is her mother. So Meredith is their mother. And I'm going to refer to Mary as her name, Mary. It's a whole lot easier than saying Winnie's mom. Mary, Wendy's mom. Wendy's mom, Mary. Okay? We're just going to... Mary. Got it? Mary's Winnie's mom. Okay. So, she tried to cope and do her best for her. But Mary's still haunted by her past of being in Neverland and whatever Peter did. She has like PTSD from it, and she's been diagnosed for these whole entire time that Winnie's been alive, pretty much, that she has mental health issues. Every woman is a darling, has mental health issues, right? So because of that, she can't keep a stable job, Mary. And so she's skinnier. Winnie's skinnier. She's fragile for an 18-year-old. She hasn't really gone to school. She has a skewed vision of how the world works. And Winnie had a prostitute as a babysitter, which, like, I don't judge, but she just wanted to be like her, and that's going to come up. Alright, so just wanted to make it clear, all of these characters are 18 years and older. You have to remember that, because things get deep, things get weird, things get spicy, things get intense, and it's hard for our brains to go, oh yeah, these characters are not the kids that I should know from movies, but they're aged up, right? So we have Pan, of course, and he has white eyes. He drinks, he smokes to feel alive. He's dying inside, right? So he's cold villain, but I've always loved Pan, so I could never see him like this. He more reminded me of when she was describing it is like Hook, pretty much. I thought he was like Hook, and I was like, that's weird, but And then we have the Lost Boys, and there's way more now than what there are in the movies. There's like a ton, like they're just rampant, right? So, but there's only 3 that are his like inner circle Lost Boys, and so there's 2, and there are Cass and Bash, and you can't ever tell them apart. One has longer hair, one doesn't. One cooks, one fishes. One's nice. They're both nice, but I always loved the twins in The Lost Boys, the raccoons. They were my favorite. I absolutely love them. I even had like a little plush of them. I only have one, of course, because you could never tell them apart in the 1953 movie anyways, you know. But I loved him. But these guys are called Cass and Bash, right? And so they're my favorite. Cass, they're Fae. They lost their rings, but they still have their magic. And they have tattoos. All the guys in Neverland have tattoos. It's a thing. Okay. Bash cooks. Cass is a safe one, like I said. They make you feel better. They're princes, but they got banished for a reason. They have a sister named Tilly who's going to come up. She's now the Fae Queen. There's Vane. He's a king, just like Peter, but he has something. He has one violet eye and he has one black eye, and he's dangerous. He's also the king, and there's 7 in the Neverland, and he helps Pan. He's a prick, but I'm just gonna put a disclaimer in here right now. I loved him. I loved Vane. I loved Vane so much that I realized why I like the guys that I like. He's my toxic trait, really. Vane is why I like the guys that I like. But I found myself in little moments. I was like, okay, Vane, I see you. Like, that's my man. That's right, you know. There's something about a man that resists a woman throwing herself at him that I'm just like, yes, right? So, so then there's these things called brownies, right? And there's nothing in the Never King that really says what brownies are. They are just described as very old, and that's it. They're very old and they help the Fae. So I pictured a little brownie square. So if anybody knows what these brownies look like, or if they even know what they imagined was something different, but I was looking at an actual brownie, or somebody that was smushy and brown like a brownie. You know what I mean? Like, of course, if you're not going to describe what they look like, which is very bad, you know, they're very old, but you can't describe them, but you call them brownie? Okay. You know, like, what else is my mind supposed to go to? You know, like, help me, because I don't understand. There's reference to characters, and of course Hook is one of them. He's in charge of the pirates, of course. Toodles, which was really nice. Toodles is a lost boy, and he was the skunk in the 1953 movie Toodles. I love Toodles. He's also Hook, where, you know, I think he was losing his marbles. That was Michael, but also Toodles too. And then there's Wendy, of course, because you can't have Peter without Wendy, right? Or Tinkerbell. Winnie is the 3rd great grandmother of Winnie. So, and then there's Tinkerbell, of course. Of course, there's Tinkerbell. And then there's Cherry, who is human, but she's from a different part of Neverland. She hangs around the Lost Boys. She has a very huge crush on Vane. Everybody knows it. Vane knows it. And I say hang out because she has spicy time with a lot of them. But she crushes on Vane, who wants nothing to do with her. But she's like, I want spicy time with Vane. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. Yeah. Okay. So now the book. It's I call the very explicit parts of this book spicy time. It makes my brain able to keep from blushing. I'm very red by nature, so I blush, and as you can see, it's permanent on my face. So, but all the people are 18 years and older, right? Remember that. The book says it throughout it, which is like good, you know? So the first page, we are thrown into having spicy time. Winnie is having spicy time with a football player. And who is better on the, she refers to it as better on the, he's better as a football player than he is having spicy time? Which, or in this case, he's better than in the back of his SUV. But poor Winnie, you know, I think we've all had this at one point, but I guess, like, according to Winnie, she's had it a lot. Like, a lot. And he's only mentioned, this boy's only mentioned one time, but we do get a name, which I was kind of happy about. I was like, oh, we got a name. His name's Anthony. What a sweet name. What a sweet name, right? And she's thinking this whole entire time, this poor boy, he's, you know, spicy timing her. He's with her. And all she could think about, poor Winnie, all she could think about is her getting kidnapped tonight by Peter Pan. If it was true, or if her mom was crazy, that's all she's thinking about. Like, there's nothing special with what he's doing. You know, it's like a wham bam, thank you ma'am sort of a thing, you know. And she thinks she might lose her mind, and if she loses her mind, well, that's okay, because at least she had fun with her life while it lasted. That's the whole point. That's why she doesn't go to school. That's why she has multiple spicy times with half of the football team and basketball teams everywhere, and lacrosse, I think, too. We don't have lacrosse where I'm at, so I'm like, okay. But, you know, whatever. But she does think that this whole Peter Pan thing is a myth. And, but Anthony takes her home, which I thought was very nice of him. He could have just left her there in the high school parking lot, right? But he invites her to a party, and she's like, just message me, you know, and inside her head, she's like, I don't even know if I'm going to be around for this party, which is tomorrow. I'm supposed to be kidnapped tonight, but of course she doesn't tell him that. So, Winnie gets inside her Victorian house, which to me is very weird, because if her mom is struggling, right, and it's just Winnie and her, how is her mom able to rent a Victorian house? Like, where I'm from the West Coast, so that Victorian homes cost a lot, like a lot, just to even rent. Like in San Francisco, I believe it's like 4,000, 5,000, around, it's in the thousands, way up there, pretty sure. Like, you need 18 roommates. When I was going to college in San Francisco, they, one of my friends said that she had about roughly 18 roommates, and they were living in a Victorian house too, and they had like no furniture, and they were just sleeping in sleeping bags on the floor because they couldn't afford furniture because the rent was so high. So I'm like, if this, like, where is this place? Because I want to go, you know. If I can rent an apartment or a Victorian house or something like that for hella cheap, girl, hook me up. If somebody, please let me know. I would love that. But anyways, so Mary's frantic, of course, and, you know, she is pushing Winnie into this room called they refer to it as the special room. Now this room is very dark. It has wards and ruins all over the ceilings, all over the walls. Most of the ruins are in Winnie's blood. So like she had to like get stabbed, and like the person who did this like wrote all these runes in her blood to like, it's supposed to keep Pan out, you know. And they like, Mary used up all the money that they did not have, like, so I don't know where she's finding this money, but she found money to pay these ward people off and all of that. It's also pointless, you know, from what we read in the back of the book. It doesn't matter, right? Like, it happens. So, but as a mother, I get it. Like, this is a very interesting viewpoint of how far you're willing to go to protect your children, especially from trauma that you have dealt with yourself. That's very interesting to me. A very interesting take on all of that, you know, is like, wow, that's a really good strand. I see what the author was trying to get at when she did that, was like, this is my trauma, this is what I've been through, so I'm going to do whatever I can to protect you. And most times you create another trauma in and of itself trying to protect your kid like that, right? And so the special room is described as, Winnie thinks of it as a demon hell room. So just like a kid, because Winnie is a kid, 18-year-olds are still kids to me. You know, she wants to eat and she wants to leave the room. To be fair, in Winnie's few defenses I have for this girl, and few rationalizations, like throw rationality out of this book when you read it. Like, you think things are going to be rational and they're not. But this one part, to be fair, it is called a demon hell ward room, and the blood of Winnie is in this room. I wouldn't want to be in there either. You know, going back to the whole trauma thing, I wouldn't want to be in this room either. I would do everything I can, regardless of if it's like real and it, you know, Pan's really going to come and this is really going to protect me. Like, regardless of that, nope, don't want anything to do with this room. So I got that. You know, I got her side. But I mean, it still gets me squirmy. Like, her mom, of course, says no, and Mary, you know, she'll get her food. And kids, no matter what, we have learned, if you guys have kids, if, you know, I have children, they don't listen. They don't listen no matter what. I mean, I was a kid myself. We've all been kids ourselves. We don't listen no matter what. And when he's thinking that the whole world is mad and that's her reality, and she just might as well be mad as well, and the magic of the room is what makes everyone mad. So that's her trauma, right, is this room. And that makes sense, you know, like, it's not the fact that Peter will come for me, it's the scared realization that if he doesn't come, then I'm just spiraling anyways because I have to be in this room, right? And then finally Mary falls asleep, and she's talking about the island, Neverland, and she's talking about the sand, and Mary only says Pan when she's asleep. She'll say him or he when she's awake, and when he starts asking questions. It's only when Mary's like in that state that she refers to Pan as Pan, right? So so she's asleep, and of course Mary decides to pass out, and she's done. And then Winnie is in the bathroom, because of course she leaves, because of course they don't listen, kids don't listen, so of course she leaves. And she is debating on whether or not taking pills, right? And she's looking at herself in this mirror, and that's where we get her description of her. You know, she's like, should just take these pills and just get it over with, let the madness happen, because the madness is gonna happen, right? Well, then thunder cracks, there's a storm, and she hears the door slam. And Winnie, I am sorry, but she doesn't rationalize anything. She doesn't rationalize it. And she's like, there's a random person working in the house. And I'm like, well, duh, but you know who it is, right? And I'm like, Mary's been telling you. Like, she runs into the special room and she locks the door. She thinks finally that Mary's telling the truth after all. Like, duh. You know, Mary's now awake. She's like, shh, quiet, Mom. And the door flings open. And whose it is? Our boy Pan. Right? He has metal rings on his fingers. He's tall. He has a long coat that goes up to his jaw. It doesn't really necessarily say what it is, so I'm going to say it's a trench coat. I'm thinking with a white collar, with the collar up, and he has tattoos and leathers on his wrists and his hands, and takes a drag from a cig, but as he does it, like, he goes like this. One thing that really irritated me, I used to smoke from the time that I was 18 to about 27, 28-ish, I want to say. 29 maybe even, I don't know. It's been a while. And I even knew you go like this. One thing that always irritated me when looking for a partner is that when they go like this, like that's turn off. Like, I don't know who holds it like here and here, but this curls like that. So that's like, that's how they're smoking, right? And then we all know what this is for. You never do that. I only do that if it's like the last like little bit, and like here's like the filter, and then you're like trying to get that last little bit, or if it's like a rolly, then you're like, you know. But anyways, he says, first thing he says, Pan busts into this room, right? There's these women, these wards are supposed to keep him out, and the first thing that comes out of his mouth is, Meredith, it's been too long. Huh? Like, here's this grand Peter Pan entrance that he always does, like, you know, you know, sort of a thing, like, it's Pan, you know? Really? Meredith, it's been too long. What is that? What is that? Like, come on. So now, Winnie's just stunned, you know, and she's trying to actually rationalize what she is seeing. Like, she's like, oh my god, this is actually Pan, this is him. My mom is real. Like, she's going through all those emotions. Valid, right? And, I mean, not like she can fight back, but, I mean, something would have been nice, right? Like, she just lets it happen to her. Like, girl, you finally realize that your mom was right all along, and then you're just like, okay, I'll go. So, you know, him and Winnie are gone now, and Winnie's knocked out, and Pan can't fly. He gets to the Never Tree with Winnie, and the twins are there, and they greet him. Pan instructs them to chain her to a bed and watch her. Nice. Alright, and Bane's there, and the Never Tree, it's like the base, I want to say, of the tree, or like the second story of the tree, but more like at the base part. It's like there's a bar, and there's a kitchen, and there's multiple rooms because of all the Lost Boys, right? So right away, pixie dust starts to glow, and he is immediately reminded of Tink, and then he's angry. Okay, well, why do you have to be angry at Tink? You know? And Cass is in charge of the place when Pan is gone. He keeps things in order. Vane is excited to make Winnie cry. So, yeah. Vane's going to always be Vane. We learn that what started this whole Pan taking the darlings, the whole what's going on. We learn that Pan had intimate time and spicy time with a darling. And that's what spiraled this whole entire thing in motion. This whole thing, right? So no one is allowed to touch Winnie, okay? Only breaking them. That's the rule. And nobody's allowed to run. So that's rude. Like, you could just choose not to do both. Like, don't run, don't break them, don't touch them, right? They're 18. Like, gross, dude. Like, what? You guys are like these mystical god beings. Like, you guys been around forever, pretty much, you know, and what is going on, right? So Winnie's up now, and she meets Bash. He gives her, you know, some water. She's also like finding her grounding of like where she's at. Like, is this real? Is it not real? Is she dreaming? Is she already mad and, like, you know, mental hospital, which is fair, right? So she learns the full names of the twins, which is Castian and Sebastian. But we're just going to call them Cash and Bash because it's easier. Vane, and then there's Vane, and Winnie, just by looking at Vane, and Vane looking at her, she starts to cry, and she's like, why am I crying? I don't cry, right? And Vane, of course, is bored and unimpressed, which pisses Winnie off, which is like, cool. The twins are like, oh, quit being a prick, Vane. You know, like, excuse me? He's joking? Like, what would happen if he wasn't joking? Like, how bad would it be? Like, that was a joke? To make a girl cry is funny. Like, so basically, they look like men, they're old celestial beings, but they have a mental capacity of a child. Cool. That's awesome, right? Because that's what you want. You always want that, right? I mean, you just described half the male population there. Vane was serious, and then, you know, it's just like, ugh. Bash unchains her and gets her something to eat, because of course he's the cook. So Bash and Cass are more like watchdogs, but they're like golden retriever watchdogs, you know. And Vane's just moody. And my personal opinion is, I think that with Pan, it's all an act. Like, he hurts people before they can hurt him, right? Because of this one act. So he keeps people at like little like arm's length, you know. And I'm still trying to figure out how they're going to tie Tink into this, considering him and Tink had a falling out. I mean, of course, because he gets angry at her. And we know that from the movies that they always have a falling out, right? Tink does have magic, so can Tink save the island? Because the island's dying, right? Like, the island's dying. So, now is the island Pan's heart? That would be interesting. That'd be an interesting theory. After all 4 books now, I think, you know, is the island Pan's heart? That'd be very interesting. But he broke the girls, so now he is dying. So is that a punishment? There's a lot of metaphors. I can see the metaphors. I can see what she was trying to go for in this book, right? But Tink left him because of the darlings, right? So we finally get into the twins' head. Bash. Cass is more like a gentle tour guide, right? And Vane's Mr. Broodsters. I'm sorry, but I'm always a sucker for the brooding type. Like, I love Vegeta, I love Snape, I love all the broodiest men, Jace Wayland and Mortal Instruments. My son is named after him. Broodiest man that I know in the early 2000s, emo boy for sure. There's something about a brooding boy that is just like, oh, let me take care of you. Like, I can fix you, right? So they all have to keep it together until tonight, because that's when Pan's gonna be up. So does that mean Pan's a vampire? Like, is that what they're telling us here? Is Pan a vampire? Because wouldn't power and the sun help him? Like, okay. But, I mean, and spoilers, you know, Vane has eyes that can go black because of his shadow. And he has the shadow of death. There's life as well, but Vane claimed the death one, and he became king. Sherry enters the scene, and she talks a little, much to the Lost Boys' disdain, which we know Lost Boys are old. Pan is way older. Cherry came to the tree from the other side of the island, so maybe she's a pirate, right? And that's why the boys don't like her. And then Pan is up. Right? Like, that's how it's supposed to be. Pan's up. Like, oh no. Pan lost his shadow. Vane has the only keys to Pan's room. Interesting. Vane is self-entitled, little prick. And I'm like, well, yeah. Number 1, he's a king and he's running around with Pan. And number 2, he has a shadow and Pan doesn't have his shadow. So the person that's more powerful in that situation of the friendship dynamic is Vane, right? So yeah, Vane's gonna be a prick, right? So Pan arms himself with like so many knives. It's like he's like sheathing himself with all these knives. Vane can fly, and just like getting Winnie to Neverland, that whole entire trip from one side to the other, that took a lot out of him. Vane would rather kill Cherry than have spicy time. He really wants to kill her, and Pan's like, that's a bad idea. She isn't that bad. Cool. They have to keep Cherry loyal, though. Yeah, shrug emoji, right? So Vane and Pan take Winnie to the beach, which I thought this was going to be a cute little scene, right? Like, oh, the beach, like, nice, get her, you know, acquainted with the island, show her something nice, show her mermaids, like, you know, show her Skull Rock Island. Nope. Pan, of course, doesn't like how protective he feels of her. The boys like to mention in their point of views that she's very small. We can see her bones, and it's like, why, yes, you can. The girl's 18, and she thinks having spicy time with boys is a good time. And as a mother, I'm like, really, that's not normal behavior. And then I have to remember that nothing about this book is normal, so quit trying to rationalize it all, right? Winnie finally thinks a little bit sane in this, right? Like, Pan's like, just let you know, you can't leave. That was the whole point of this chapter, was him going, haha, you can't leave, you can't run, nope, and it says in the rules, you can't run. And then she pesters him all of a sudden, which is like, cool. And she's asking why he takes the darling girls. She can't help him. She just, you know, she's just being annoying, right? She's like, I can't help you. No, why do you always take the darling girls? Why are you always breaking them? Blah, 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 blah. And so I feel Vane on this one, and he just lets loose his shadow magic, and like when he runs. Because despite the rules, who cares, right? Because I think she's afraid. I mean, I think she's finally having a real, irrational emotion to everything. She just got kidnapped, went to a foreign place that she thought never existed, and she thought everybody was crazy. Vane tells Pan that he doesn't have a grip on his magic. He's like, oh, as his magic is running loose, you know, towards Winnie, he's like, oh, by the way, I don't have a grip on my magic. And so Pan's like, go take it out on Cherry, right? So they're both running, and so Vane has his shadow and he's king. They keep saying this, and then they go back to Pan, go back to the house. So Pan chases after Winnie, thinking, you know, she's fast, but I'm faster. And then, you know, if I had my shadow, I can easily get her. But you don't. You don't have your shadow. So why even say it? But, you know, this point of this chapter, it just lets us know that there's no escaping Neverland. Okay? That was like a sentence conversation. Like, hey, just to let you know. Like, I guess to prove the point that you can't leave. Like, you think I'm lying, but I'm gonna let you know. You can't leave. Right? Why have this? Why have that whole entire thing? Like, you know, it could have been a nice time. It could have been an easy time. It could have been a well time. But no. Nope. And Pan, what does he do? He catches her. Duh. Right? For some weird reason, Pan apologizes for Vane. And I took this as a frat boy apologizing, like frat boy Chad apologizing for Prick Tanner not being impressed. Right? Apparently Vane also has the ability to make people feel terror. So that's why Winnie ran. So yippee. Right? But Pan said that this time that Winnie ran, Vane didn't mean that. Like, it had nothing to do with her. Like, he's just going through some stuff, right? Like, oh, sorry about him. He's just going through it. He didn't mean that. And we're supposed to sit here and give him a pass because he, like, it was an accident this time compared to all the other times, right? Like a 5-year-old. Like, I'm confused. But, whatever. This just proves my point that they're mentally boys. When this awkward thing was written. Pan just takes her back to the tree, just like awkwardly. He's just like, all right, I got you, and don't worry about him. He was just going through some stuff, man. And okay, let's go back. I thought she wasn't supposed to run. So where's the punishment for that, right? We learned that the Darlings had hidden something from Pan, and of course he wants it back. Spoiler. I'll give you time if you don't want this spoiled. It's his shadow. He lost his shadow, which he already told us we don't have. But he doesn't want Winnie to know. A question, how does he know that the Darlings are born? Like, are they offsprings of Pan and the boys? How do they know when it's their 18th birthday? I mean, and where are the Darling men? Where are Winnie's dad? Where is Winnie's grandfather, great-grandfather? Like, all these things. Like, where are the men? Why is it just girls? Like, that's weird. Like, you have to have a man in order to do the act of procreating a child, right? Like, I mean, let's just break it down in basic form, right? Like, I'm not saying, but blood reasons, like, I know the embryos and all, but you still need a man for that. So I'm just trying to figure it out, you know, like where it won't get answered in this book. So they chained her back to the bed. So what was the point besides she can't escape, right? Ugh, whatever. Moving right along with no rationalization whatsoever, the flow of the book, or because it repeats itself factually so many times, right? We know Winnie has she has this daydream of a prostitute that used to babysit her. This lady's called Starla. Why Winnie spent all her time with her, couldn't tell you. I don't judge if you have that past as a prostitute. Like, no judgment. This isn't on you. This isn't my view on you. This is the character, Starla. This is it's a fictional character that I am going to say my opinions about the character and how it was written. Okay, that's it. If you had this, I understand. Okay, I'm right there. Like, I understand. This is nothing to you or anybody that you know that has a past of this. So I don't want you coming in my comments going, yeah, you don't like this stuff, right? No, this is a fictional characters. Okay, you all know that bit. Fictional characters. Okay, but this is a stereotype like this. I'm not saying. I'm just saying, from my knowledge and my naivety and the ignorance of all of it, prostitutes have no choice half the time. This is their only option. You know, and they don't like it. They're not, some of them, yes, they get very far and they become escorts and they become very expensive. When I used to live in San Francisco, I had an apartment behind the strip of the strip clubs, behind that little strip in North Beach. And during the summer we would leave the windows open, and every night you would hear, where's my money? Where's my money? Outside at the back of the strip place. And it's some trying times out there. Okay, so I know most of them didn't have a choice, and I don't judge if that's what happened. But to be characterized as Starla, and how she would, it's a fake character. She uses men to get what she wants. Like, she used prostituting men to get what she wants out of them. Like, she prostituted herself. Okay, there's no pimp involved. She made this choice to prostitute, right? She makes like 6 figures as a prostitute, right? Yet, she is making 6 figures, but she is watching a child. Where'd the girl get the time, right? And I don't get it. Yeah, I don't get it. But like I said, that's to Starla. Okay, so when he gets this total childlike idea, of course, with all the Lost Boys, she's gonna spicy time, right? That's her big plan. Like, I know what will get him. I know what Starla would do in this situation. Spicy time him, right? Like, baby girl, Pan said no. Pan said no. I mean, granted, you just ran and nothing happened to you. There was no repercussions on that, so maybe. But, like, Pan said no, right? So then she thinks of Cass, all the Lost Boys, right? And she puts them in a box. She's like, out of all the Lost Boys, like our list, who would be the one that I would want a spicy time and would be the easiest to just pluck, right? And she goes, oh, Cass. He's the nice one, right? Like, of course. Oh my God. Like, revelation. Not my boy. Not my boy. When he's crying, right? She's crying. And, you know, Cass goes in and comforts her. He makes her, like, little illusions. That's his power. He can illusion things, right? And he lets slip. Now Winnie knows. Like, we already knew, but now Winnie knows that Pan lost his shadow, which is a secret, right? And that the island is dying, which we knew that, but Winnie didn't know that, and now Winnie knows that, right? Why that couldn't have been said at the beach, no idea. So Cash and Bash are fairies, right? And you can never say that you don't believe in fairies. Like, she was like, he goes, I'm a fairy, and she's like, I don't, and he's like, nope, if you do that, a fairy will die. Which, I kind of love this little Easter egg. I love Jeremy Sumpter. I think we all had a 13-year-old crush, 11, 10 to like about, 14-year-old crush on him. I saw that movie way too many times in theaters. But why I loved Peter Pan with Jeremy Sumpter, flawless. I love that one. So, anyway, so the Fae and Neverland have one rule, and that they can't kill each other. Bash and Cass broke that. They killed a fairy, and they were banished, and they lost their wings. Winnie thinks she's got one over on him and tries to get him, going and get him ready, right? She's like, oh, that must have been so hard for you. Oh my God, really? Right? And he just like flips out on her. Like, he knew exactly what she was doing, and he was like, like, we've seen every plan, every option, everything that happened within that plan. Like, everything that you are doing, we have already seen it come to fruition. Like, everything. And nothing stops it, right? Which is like gross, right? Like, ew, right? She isn't the first, right? So that means that another darling has tried this, and they were weak. These boys were weak, right? And I was like, yes, guys, for like 0.2 seconds. Like, yeah, she's a child. Like, don't do anything. Yes, stay strong. 0.2 seconds later, he goes to this bonfire that the Lost Boys always have at night, and he picks a random girl. He's like, you. And he relieves himself. Spicy time in this girl's vessel region, and quite vigorously. And when he's like watching this, but she's like, oh man, I wish that would be me. He just told you no, girl. But Bash busts into the room, like right after that. Like, she's like, oh, I wish that was me. And then Bash busted in. He's mad, and he like pins Winnie up to the wall like this, and he's like, what did you do to my brother? And she's like, I didn't do anything. And he's like, I know my brother. Like, I don't like when girls do this, when they're like, he's just being him, right? Like, I didn't do it, even though, like, you did, though. Like, just own it. Like, yeah, I did that. Yep, I did it, right? Like, ugh. Just own it. Like, just say that you did it. Like, if somebody's like, what did you do? Like, unless you really didn't do anything, right? But I'm just saying, like, girls will be like, I didn't do anything. Like, he's the one. Bassy times Winnie. Alright? Very intimately, might I add. Alright? Why? Because Winnie was reminded of something that Darla said, which was, you sexy time the guy that is good and ready. I mean, if that was the case, I wouldn't be here right now. Like, there'd be a lot of sexy time happening, right? But I don't know. You know, I wasn't happy with this. I wasn't happy with my twins. They're not my twins. This is a weird universe where nothing makes sense, right? So, Pan catches them because, you know, you don't touch the darlings. And Bash stops and he apologizes. He's like, Pan, you know, he's still with her. And he's like, Pan, I'm so sorry. But the sheer sass of my boy Pan, the sheer audacity. This was just tied in a neat little bow for me, right? He's like, don't stop on my account. And he sits and he watches. Like, what? What? He sits and he watches Bash completions. And Winnie was about to, right? She was right on that cusp. And Pan, it says he grabbed her by the waist and picked her up, right? Off of Bash. And Bash was no help. He just, like, stalks off. Like, thanks, buddy. Right? And Pan's down toying with her. Right? Like, you know, he's down under with his fingers. You know, and she still doesn't finish. Pan tells her to stop or she will regret it. I mean, these are just empty threats at this point. I mean, people touched her, they spicy timed her, you said no. You know, what about Vane, you know? But, like, whatever. So, I had a problem with this chapter. This is chapter 11. I have a problem with this chapter. And we get 3 bullet points, 3 thoughts, right? Pan is excited. Things are happening down in his Netherland. And he's pissed because of that. And that's good. Because that's a child. You know. Right? Pan doesn't know Vane's story. Which I is constantly reminded about the fact that Winnie is 18. Right? If somebody didn't get it at this point, I mean, geez. She's 18. Right? And 3. Day is about to happen. So that's nappy nap time for Pan. Vampire. Alright? If you lost your magic, I would think the sun would help. Help. I'm on the struggle bus. It's a bad time all around. Like, it's like a kid's birthday party, right? Like, you didn't want to go, and even, you know, there's nothing to do, and you make up this stuff, this book in your head, like, oh, that'd be really good. But it's just to pass the time. Like, you don't go deeper into the thoughts. You don't go deeper into exploring the idea. You just, bleh, whatever pops in that little brain, you're just, you know, not making any sense of anything. So the next day, of course, now we're in the next day. That was chapter 11. That was my thoughts. Like, there was no point of that chapter. Winnie and Cherry talk. Okay, Cherry has bruises all over her body and scratches on her because Vane. And Winnie kind of jabs at her because she's jealous that she got to have Vane, which make sense. And the boys do too. Like Cash and Bash, like kind of like take jabs at her, at Cherry, which is like not cool. And this is where I can understand, at least for me, the trigger part. Like, it didn't trigger me, but I kind of, like, I could see it. And that is why most victims, including myself, of assault and sexual assault and all of that. They don't speak up because of getting made fun of or talked down. The shadows are magic. Shadow of death, shadow of life, reminded Pan lost his. Yeah, we know. Cherry let it slip and said this because I guess no one's supposed to know. But, like, Winnie already knew that because of Cass. So it's like, why this is still a secret to Winnie, I have no clue. Like, she already knew because Cash let it slip. But, like, the boys are making a big deal about it. Like, oh, she told her. But it's like Cash already let it slip the night before, right? And then there's more islands. So, like, I'm thinking, is Vane from Skull Rock Island because he has death? Like, there's 7 kings in total. Skull Rock Island, man. It would make sense. He has 1 black eye, 1, purple eye. Would make perfect sense for this boy. Skull Rock Island. I don't know. If anybody knows, let me know what his island is if you've read farther. But so there's 2 shadows to each island. In the 7 islands, there's 2, so there's 14 shadows. And a king can claim a shadow. It's in his blood. The king gets to choose either life or death. So Vane picked, Pan picked, I mean, I've already told you this 85,000 times because it's in the book 85,000 times, life. Because, of course, Vane picked death, so one of them had to have picked life, right? And it's the only way this book, I guess, would ever make sense. Once again, Pan is dying, darling, is suffering. How is this still a secret? I have no clue. Lost boys get mad when Cherry shares it. Like, it's like, we knew this, Winnie knows everyone has been talking about it around her. And Cherry is just because this is talking about it? I don't know. But secrets are not secrets, right? So Winnie doesn't know how to get the shadow back, right? Bash and Cass, we find out, killed their dad. Which I have thoughts about that. But besides the little history lesson and stuff, it doesn't matter. Cherry's a human from the north end of the island. Hook's territory now confirmed she is a pirate. And Hook wants to talk to Pan. Right? So the twins are in the hammock outside, which are like, island boys, right? Bash tells Cass about the fun that he had last night and what he missed out on. The brotherly moment there, right? Cass doesn't like it. You shouldn't, Cass. You shouldn't. None of them should. And for some reason, Bash and Cash talk like in Fae telepathy, but it sounds like little bells, like how Tink would, it's like ding, 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 ding. That's what it would sound like to our ears, but to them it's like, that's how they talk in Fae telepathy, right? Cherry's going behind Pan's back, and she's going to let Winnie out, and she's going to invite her to tonight's bonfire. Why? I have no clue at this point. Why? Because no rules, no rhymes, no reasons, right? Like, but Tilly is going to be at the treehouse tomorrow, and Tilly is the boys' sister. Okay? And they miss her. But the Fae Court drama, they don't miss. They miss her, but the drama of the Fae Court, they're like, no. And maybe they'll convince Tilly to forgive them one day for what they did and why they got banished. But Winnie can't know. She knows. Like, they killed their dad. She knows. Interesting, though. They highly suspect that Tilly's lying about the darlings to Pan. What? We don't know. We don't know what Tilly might be lying about at this point, but we know that the boys, the twins, are like, she's up to something, we can't trust her, right? So then we get this weird point of view of the brownies. It only refers to himself in third person. He's like, the brownie thinks, right? which it's not much, you know, they don't look like anything, right? So picture a brownie square, right? Like I pictured like a corner, the best one, right? And comments down below if you know still, you know, what they actually look like, because that'd be great. Or if the book goes into actually saying what they are, right? Or what they look like the other books, like that'd be great. So they're Tilly and the brownie are talking, and how about how Pan has another dark bombshell, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Okay, oh, spoiler. Don't want it spoiled. End it. Stop this video. Tink is Tilly's mom and is bashing Cass's mom, right? So 3 kids and a fairy king. All right, that's Tink's little thing, right? And Tilly wants Pan's island, and everyone believes that Pan killed Tink. Okay, so to me that means that Tink's dead. Okay, so this is when Stockholm syndrome is running so deep right now in this poor girl. The whole lecture that Cass has with Winnie about what her and Bash did is just falling on this girl's ears. She's like, oh, but it was fun. Ooh, tell me again what I did. Like, ooh, right? Like, she's thinking about the spicy time, and that's it. Like, when he's in high spirits, which is very odd for somebody who just got kidnapped, right? And just got in it, right? Which she keeps pretending. Like, girl, shock wore off, right? And she has no regular behavior. And who are we kidding? The girl is, given her background, is just a mess. She's a mess. Vane plays with her, like, I guess Bash was in the kitchen and had cloudberries, which is like the best berries ever. And he was making cloudberry pancakes, and she's like, that's good. Right? Whatever. And then she's like, oh, Vane. And Vane goes and walks off. And I'm like, cool. But all this does is gets like a certain rise out of Winnie. Girls know when you're spiced up, I guess is a good term to call it. And when you're spiced up, your stomach and your does something, right? Like, that's what she's feeling after when he's like, ugh, right? Which, okay, whatever. That's your need. That's your niche. That's your niche. Not mine, though. Not a lot of people that I know, too, is their niches. So, that's an interesting one for sure. Niche? I don't know what it's called. That though. And so all this does, and so Bash says Vane has never done that. Like, he's never walked off from a challenge. And, you know, he's usually the dominant one. And when he makes a joke, I was regretting this part of my notes. She makes a joke about this being her first kidnapping. So they're all just having firsts. I could not. The physicalness, you know, it's just poor taste, right? I mean, I'm not a prude by any means. I'm not a prude, but I have read some pretty spicy things that makes this look like a G-rated like book, and ugh, I just cringed at it. It was a feeling. I'm still like, I had to say it. No. Cherry and Cash bring the wine, and when he's informed that it's a fairy wine, Court of Thorns and Roses, which is so powerful. And they all go to the bonfire. what is up with fairy wine in these books? Like, it's a mystical place. So, like, you just think it, and it's like, oh, yeah, cool. What is it about fairy wine that's so powerful? Like, I really want to know, like, what is the lore that it has to be absolute? Like, it's the absolute rule. If you have fae, if you have fairies, if you have mystical beings, and they have wine, it has to be fairy wine. Or fae wine. And it has to be so much more powerful than human alcohol. I don't know. Let me know. I'm curious. And basically this bonfire in particular is like a huge spice fest, right? And Winnie is in her element and she's playing some cards. She's playing cards, right? She's like, I'm playing cards. Like, she's feeling herself. She's feeling good. And she sees a boy straddle him. And she starts straddling him and starts kissing him. And he's just a nameless lost boy. Pan woke up and to Vane, who informs him that Winnie is drunk. And the twins hosted the bonfire. And Vane is questioned why he didn't stop it. And Vane said he's in a babysitter. Facts. Facts. Because he has his shadow. He is a king. Facts. So Pan cares that she's on top of a lost boy. Why? We don't know. Just he cares. And apparently none of the characters do. Because even Vane doesn't know why he cares. And they don't understand. But Pan chooses violence. Pan woke up and he heard this and he just chose violence. For this little lost boy. Well, not little because they're men. But this poor lost boy. Who when he calls... Ooh, excuse me. Who when he calls him... Calls the lost boy a red-headed wonder. I don't know. It's really weird. But... I mean, my redheaded wonder is Peter. So why is she using that? Anyways, this gets really weird. Like, we get to see a side of Vane, maybe have a little personality. And just to let you know, we get this little nugget of love. If you didn't like that kidnapping, we're all just having first things. Comment. This one is 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3. Better watch out. Peter Pan is going to red rum me. Anyways, yeah. I think she was trying to go for a more Freddy Krueger vibe. Like, it was supposed to be creepy, but it's Vane and this story doesn't even make any sense, so it didn't really kind of tanked. But I think that's where she was getting it, because that's the only one that I know is like 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. But like, it didn't really do that, but that's like the only tune that sticks in my head that's like creepy. Pan sees Wendy straddling this boy, and with a knot in Pan's chest, he is in blind rage. And Pan grabs Winnie, tosses her to Vane, and you know, she's so tiny, so he just grabs her by the waist, right? And then Pan grabs the back of the boy's chair, so he's like this, right? Punches the boy's chest, which I'm thinking is like right here. And I say boy loosely because lost boys, but anyways, he goes straight through the bone, rips out the heart, tears it out, crushes it, and blood just splats everywhere on Pan. And his clothes, which is expected. I mean, I get, like, that's in the sense of what, like, heart does, and we see that in movies where it's like, and then it, like, splatters, because the heart is a blood vessel. It's where it stores all the blood, and it pumps through the blood, and it flows the blood, and all of that, so I get it. But then Pan breathes, and then he's, like, thinking in his head, there's no white knights, there's only monsters. Okay. And then when he's like tipsy and Pan just killed the boy and he like drags her upstairs with Cash, Bash, and Vane. And he proceeds to spicy time. But like rough spicy time. Like he's like her, yeah. And so then he's done. And then like 5 seconds later, it's Cash and Bass's time. Together. And they're on either side, you know, if you know, you know. And Vane's, he just spits in her mouth. I didn't get that. Vane might be my favorite though. Yeah. He grew on me on that point where he's just like, like, I never had a boy who treated me like that before. Like, I know I'm like a slut, but they never treat me like one. Dang Vane. Anywho, and so Bash and Cass stay with her while she like takes a shower. Like she's like in the shower, and then they're like on the bed. Finally, this girl gets a shower, and I'm glad she finally gets some normalcy in her life, right? Took this long, and it finally like dawned on her that Pan killed someone and then had a time with her. Red flags. Then when he thinks she isn't lost, she is found. So there went that rationality of like, that's probably a bad thing that like he killed somebody and then we spicy timed. But I wasn't lost. I'm found now. He found me. Bash makes the ceiling like become stars, which I thought was really cute. And then he wants to tie Winnie up, and like they're speaking their little Fae telepathy, and Cass agrees, but like not tonight. Like we can't. She's had so much. She's went through so much, but like not tonight, Bash. And then Cass realized like he used her, you know. But even though he does this with all the other girls, Winnie is different. Like, she has a moral compass, same as you all. She doesn't have any boundaries. She has the same mental capacity. Like, expand on that. Expand on why she is different. Why must I be convinced as a reader why she is different? Besides all the things that I just said. Does she, like, just say it then. Like, she's just like us. Say it, just say it. But nope. Never gets explained. Just, she's different, right? So Cass turns the floor to like this pink foresty moss, which I thought was really cute. It like glows pink, and I just thought that was adorable. I hate pink, but I like it. And then Bass jokes that Cass is spoiling her, which Cass says he wants her to think that they're soft, you know? And Bash says, why? She'll only be disappointed when she realizes that they weren't. Well, way to be a downer, Bash, right? And then Pan and Vane go to this town. It's called Brace Yourselves. Like, sit down. Don't drink if you're drinking something. Like, if you're drinking your drink, like, take a sip. Like, hurry up and just do this. Swallow it. Okay. If you're eating something, put it down. Like, swallow it. Alright, I'll give you a second. Darlington. Really. Near Dove Point. I'm pretty sure if you get Peter and Wendy the book, you get Peter the movies, you get Hook, you get Jeremy Sumpter's Peter Pan, you get Pan and Wendy the live action, you get all the Tink movies. I loved all the Tink movies, by the way. My daughter, when she was like 9 months old, she was obsessed. I had to watch every single one of them. Secret of the Wings and the Pirate Fairy. Tom Hiddleston is in Pirate Fairy, by the way. Love that movie. He sings. He's James. Anyways, yeah, he's Hook in that one. James Isaacs is Hook in Peter in the Peter Pan Jeremy Sumpter version, and that's what I loved him before he was Lucius. But anyways, you would think that there would be more of this lore, right? Like you could grab from, right? But whatever. Pan sees some of Hook's men outside of this bar. And he just kills them. Just because they're on his side of the island. They weren't causing any harm. They were just drinking, having a good time at this bar, and he just yeets them out of existence. There you go. And then when he is sleeping between like Cass and like Bash, and Bash gives her an acorn with a leather strap. I'm pissed about this because that is reserved for one person. This scene is as much as I love the Lost Boys, this scene is reserved for one person and one person only, and that is freaking Jeremy Sumpter. You do not taint this. You don't get to have that scene. That's our scene. That's our scene that makes us the gushy little girls that we are. Okay? And then Bass asks, what, like, just randomly, like, what's your favorite food? And she goes, croissants. Girl, out of all the foods, and you just had cloudberry pancakes. What the hell? Whatever. When he wakes up, and surprised, not really, that there's coffee and croissants there, I'm like, oh, he remembered. Anyways, and she never had somebody who did this. I mean, it's a little bit of a stretch. I mean, she's had people like at arm's length as well, so but this is the first time she's been around guys for more than, I will say, about 3 hours without trying to make it weird. So I don't know, make it make sense. Then Cass comes in, his hair's all down, he's all wet, right? And he was out catching fish, and Pan is in his tomb. Now they say tomb. It says tomb. Tomb. He's a vampire. I'm calling it right now. Why would you word it that way? He's in his tomb. Why don't you just say he's in his little dark room? Oh, Pan, he's asleep. Why do you have to use tomb? Right? So he sleeps with no windows. There's no windows in that room. Like a closet. He is a vampire. And when he's reminded of the special room. Why? Why call it tit? Sunlight kills him. He's a vampire. So we get this unnecessary scene of her learning how to clean a fish. Why? IDK. I have no clue. She's aroused. And that's kind of gross because of the fish's fin name, which is anal. Whatever. I can't connect with her at all at this point. Like, if I haven't connected with her this far, I'm just not gonna connect with her at all. Like, no other book is. The other books, it's not gonna be like, oh, now I feel for you. No, I'm just not gonna connect with her. And we are told this stuff again that we know. I have no clue. This is another pointless chapter. 2 chapters. I mean, why? Why about cleaning a fish and learning shit that we already know? Then when he goes to the library. Now, I was expecting, like, yay, it's a library. All these books, like, that scene in Beauty and the Beast where it's like, oh, right? Like, all these books, like, these are all yours, Winnie, right? Like, all book girls, fantasy to have our own library like that, right? Like, look at these books. Isn't it neat? Right? Anyways, so I was expecting her to be like super excited. Nope. She's not impressed. She doesn't even care. Because who's in there all alone? Vane. It says loud sigh on my notes. But anyways, he's reading Frankenstein because the metaphors, right? There's metaphors. And I mean, they're saying they are monsters, but besides the 2 murder scenes, I've yet to be really convinced unless they are vampires. Him and Winnie are teasing each other a little bit, trying to get some spicy things going. I like to call this game awkward. I played it in college. I don't suggest college kids play this game because your boundaries have to be gone. It's where you like touch another person or like you get close, and whoever is uncomfortable first and like stops the other person, that person loses, right? So like if your hand is like that and then you stop, like the person's like, right? Like stops that person, I would lose then because I stopped you, right? That's the game. Like whoever's uncomfortable first, right? So then Vane throws her off, right? And then he stalks off, but he like slapped one side of her chest. Like, okay, well, that wasn't even necessary. Like before he like threw her off, he was like wow, right, like one of those things, right? So he stalks off, and I think she won that one. Like, my guy, like I don't get it, but prediction is he's going to be the most loving one out of all of them. He's going to be the most protective. He's going to be the most caring, because that's why I love my Brewsters. They have such bleeding hearts, okay? They're just misunderstood. They just care so much that they have to care less, okay? They're just so guarded, right? So Pan is up, because Pan's up. And he's telling Winnie that by nighttime she'll go insane. So then we get this little cute little story that memories are imprinted into their blood. Assassin's Creed it a little bit? Were you playing a little Assassin's Creed there? Was anybody around you playing Assassin's Creed? Because that is Assassin's Creed. Anyways, memories are, like, in children, really wild because of the imagination and the creativity. So that's why he has to wait till they're 18. But, like, how does he know that the girl is born? And it's a girl. And let alone that it's her 18th birthday, right? Are they offspring? Like, because of what they just... Anyways, the Fae, and especially Tilly, can go into the mind and kind of dig around in there. And they're gonna go, and so going mad is like a side effect of that. And of course, when he asks if there's like any way to get the memories without the risk of insanity, of course, Pan's like, I don't know, this is the way we've always done it. So she randomly asks him, like, well then, what are you good at? And when making these characters, like, you have to develop in this book that, like, without his magic, he realizes he's not really good at anything. And that is a sad realization, that without his shadow, there is no point to Pan. He's just a regular guy. And how freaking poetic is that, right? Like, that metaphor, and how poetic that is, that without a shadow you are nothing and you are just basically like everybody else, is wow. That really hit hard right there, Nikki. I see you. And then Pan walks to her spot. Walks her to a spot. He asks how she, like, hey, how'd you get these back scars, right? Like, she doesn't really want them to see her as weak, right? But he sees these scars, and she just, like, randomly was just like, oh, yeah, well, like, she did it. My mom, she tried to do it to protect you, to protect me from you, and then, so it's your fault. Right? And because we know that this special room, like, how much of the same info we're getting is just drowning at this point. They get to the spot called Neverland Lagoon, which I actually think is a real place where all the mermaids are. It's the lagoon, but this is called Neverland Lagoon. Just to let you know, if you didn't know where we were, we're in Neverland. Remember that. And this is the lagoon. But there's like a little portal, and the water is like swirling, and it's like magic and glowing shapes, and you like mermaids, and you can like see faces coming in and out of it and stuff. And it said that it's a portal to the afterlife, and Pan's like throwing rocks in there while he's talking, which is like, if it's the portal to the afterlife, no wonder why you're not allowed around it, Pan. Like, no wonder, right? You're freaking throwing rocks in there. And Winnie makes Pan laugh, which is like really odd because he hasn't laughed in like a really long time. So I guess she's like different because she's like making him feel alive, I guess. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think Nikki does either. Love you, girl. But Pan says he brought Mary here with to help with her like madness after it happened. And when he gets a little upset that Pan did that, like, you took my mom here first. Whatever. We know that, you know, you weren't the first one. We all know that. So, you know, was Mary pregnant with Winnie when she was there? Was she? I haven't read any of the other books, so was she? Dude, if she... No, if she was pregnant with Mary, when Mary was pregnant with Winnie, when she was in Neverland, that would mean that, number one, Winnie's dad would think that Mary was dead, right? Like, you know, wham bam, thank you ma'am, right? So of course she wouldn't be able to find him again when she came back. You know, number two, that is why she feels comfortable there. Like, that's why she doesn't feel scared, right? Like, because she remembers this place, kind of, right? Like, you know, she's heard all the boys' voices when she was a baby, in the womb, baby. And so it's like, that would, wow, that realization was just like, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm right. Let me know if I'm right or wrong. Right? But then it starts to rain. And then they head back to the treehouse, and he feels protective. And when he's wearing Pan's shirt, because it rained, and this thought came to my mind: is Vane or Pan her dad or grandfather? That'd be weird. Anyways, when he's scared that she's going to lose herself, which is like rightfully so, right? Finally, we get something out of this girl. But Bash says how strong of a mind she is. Okay. She wants to help Pan get to his shadow, but not with losing herself, which is like valid. Good thoughts, girl. Bash tells Winnie the bracelet is for protection. I mean, not physically. Maybe. It's like telling a kid to, like, you know, you put these sunglasses on and nobody can see you, right? Like that sort of a thing. Cherry loans her a dress. So, like, why the shirt? I don't know. When he's frail, so it, like, sags on her. And the boys will see her scars. Like, she doesn't want them to. She, like, shrugs into it and stuff. And it's like, why? Who the hell knows? Like, Pan already commented on them. So, like, why are you trying to hide them? I don't know. So help me. Like, it just, like, contradicts itself. Anyway, she doesn't want to be seen as weak. Too late. And Pan already saw them, so, like, why hide them from him? I don't get it. Finally, Tilly is here. And she's cordial and she's respectful, which is good. And which I admire. Tilly places her hand on Winnie's, like, temple. And I'm assuming it's how I picture it because logically... But who knows? She has like her, like, I don't know. It's like on her cheek, but like I think like her like middle finger, the bigger finger, is like on her temple. And when he screams, and Pan grits his teeth as if you thought this was all one chapter. You are wrong. It's 2 chapters, and they see this get done quite so many times. But this one's the hard one. They made a promise to Mary, a promise, and they broke it. Someone stopped Tilly. And I'm going to let you guess who that is, okay? Guess who stops when? It's Vane. It's Vane. Because he is the most caring. Duh. And the fact that she had to make him have a soft spot. So the mind magic feels what is described as Tilly touching her soul with claws that are on fire. And I'm thinking like Freddy Krueger. Actual hand, right? Like, or like his like claws with the fire on them. But anyways, that's my mind. I don't know where your mind goes. But it's worse than fake magic with a knife. Fair point, Winnie. Probably because it's real, right? But whatever. Let's just keep going. She keeps telling herself to endure. She's like, just endure, just endure. It's gonna be over soon. Just endure. Okay, and she faints in Vane's arms, and he's like, no more. And he cradles her in his arms, right? Okay, and then tells Tilly, you're done, right? And Vane takes her to a room. Now it's not said if it's his room, her room, but it's a room. And she's awake now, and she asks why he stopped Tilly. Valid question, right? He explains that where he comes from, he sees girls get broken just because they can, and he's sick of it. So we get no explanation. We get none whatsoever. When he says she's stronger than he thinks, and he says even a mighty oak thinks she is strong until a man with the axe comes along and chops her down. Okay. And then Winnie asks him, are you a boy with an axe? And he says, men are born with an axe in their hands. To take the measure of a man, you have to pay attention to how he wields it. But it's Winnie, and she's not the smartest. She's not that smart. But okay, Vane, just make me realize all about my past relationships. Truth bombs. Thanks, my guy. She has a dream, and this one was hard to break down. There was a lot going on when I was writing this, of breaking down her dream, and a lot around me, kids yelling, screaming, and dogs and animals. But I broke it down, and it's also the writing too. It's like I feel like she was just not making sense. Wendy is holding a box next to Wendy, which is now Winnie's trunk. So she's holding this box next to the trunk. Winnie is knocking on the side hard. She's right on the side of it, and this small drawer pops open into the side, and she presses it closed. Why all of a sudden so much detail into this one thing? Could have been 2 sentences, but whatever. There's a woman who looks like Tilly. I'm gonna say that's Tink because Tink is Tilly's mom, but whatever. Pan can never have it back. So the winged woman, Tink, steps close to Wendy, but next to Wendy because of the dream. Okay. She goes for Wendy's temple, high pulse of light around the room, and there's this little girl peering from the closet. She's peering, right? Thought of Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe, the Lucy, she's peering, right? And Wendy's not breathing now, and then the winged woman says, Pan will never have his darling back. And Winnie is back in the room, and Vane isn't there. Brace yourselves. Hold on tight. We're almost done. Cass and Vane are in the loft. Vane is in the bar. Daylight is there, and Pan is asleep. She waits for Vane to open the door for Pan's room. With the revelation of knowing where his shadow is, so she now knows where the shadow is, right? Winnie had this memory, and she now knows where the shadow is. All she cares about, and all the reason why she woke Pan up, is to ask about who the winged woman was. Biggest eye roll of my life. Girl, this whole entire thing is so Pan can get his shadow. You know that. I know that. Cash, Bash, Vane, Hook, everybody in this universe, everybody out of this universe that has read this book knows up until this point, this is all that Pan cares about. His shadow. And all you care about is being jealous because there was a winged woman. And who was she? Because she knew Pan. That's it. It's not because she unalived Wendy. It's not because of the little girl. It's not anything else. It's who that winged woman was because she is jealous. Then Pan gives us this darling who took the shadow, but it was Tink who masterminded it all. Right? With Toodles. Okay? That's all. That's all you hear about Toodles. Winnie says Toodles is another lost boy. And Tink loved Peter, but hated the darlings more. She finally tells Pan, finally, after he was like, yeah, it's Tink, to where to find his shadow. Okay. Do we think it's there? I think it is. I think it is there because nobody was able to get to these memories before. So I think it is there, but something's going to happen. Something's not right. Like, it's there, but something's off, right? Something's off kilter. Like, it's not going to go how it should be, right? And then, of course, there's that little sister. Pan's itching to go to the real world, right? I don't think that's right, but because of the writing, but he can't fly, so they have to, like, go off a cliff. And they jump off this cliff of Marooner's Rock. I think I said that right. There's even a Skull Rock Island, but we don't get that one. We get Marooner's Rock. Winnie isn't too thrilled, but the twins are because they love thrills because they're lost boys. Pan assures her that once they go back, she won't go back. Pan and Winnie both, like, once he said that, kind of was like, oh. And Pan holds her hand, and they leap, and she just has to believe that she's going to be in the real world. They go to their house, and the brownies are there. And Tilly knew that where the shadow was this whole entire time because of the mind melt. And Tilly's going to claim the shadow. Fight breaks out. Winnie finds her mom, like, cowering in a corner as always. Vane snaps a brownie's neck. And then it took Winnie forever to open the drawer of the trunk of the box. Somehow it's still there. And we get more of a fight in Pan's view. And Pan and Bash kill the lesser brownies. Still no description on them. So all I see is desserts getting shanked. Like the box dessert. Shing, shing. And Cass asked the oldest brownie that they made a promise to Mary that she'll be okay but she wasn't. Like, the more she fought, the more her mind was going to go insane. So she didn't fight it. She was like, no, that's okay. I won't fight it. I want to help you guys. But she still went insane irregardless. So, like, they got lied to. That's why they thought Tilly was lying to them. And the brownie, for whatever reason, just yells, "They killed Tink!" And Pan shoves the blade in his chest. Honestly, the way it was written, because Vane snaps the neck of a brownie, I thought it was the brownie, the oldest brownie that was, like, in cohorts with Tilly. But it wasn't, I guess, because Pan did that shanky shank with his sword. But Winnie has the box, and it's covered in, like, Fey ruins. And Pan's gonna wait till they get to Neverland to clean up the mess. To get to, like, open it, and then they clean up the mess. Mary tells the boys that there's, like, 2 shovels in the shed. But in, like, 24 hours, all the bodies are gonna disintegrate anyway. So why bury them? I don't know. I don't know. Maybe if there's, like, a scuffle or something like that, and then they're in a bad part of town, I would think. So, like, domestic dispute, I don't know. Who knows? Winnie says she wants to, like, go back. Pan says no. She says Tilly might be plotting something. Duh. Pan says it's dangerous. Pan makes a comment about don't get cocky, and she's like, grossly says she'll just get cocked. And follow the rules. She gives him the box, and he can feel the shadow in it. And Pan said, thank you. And at this part, I choked up. Because Winnie said, you're welcome, Peter Pan. That touched me. And then Winnie asks if Mary wants to go back. Mary says, no, she's actually really good. She's doing fine. Like, thanks, Mom. I'm not in your life anymore, and you're doing way better without me. Like, I'm the one that took care of you for 18 years, but, whatever, right? And then she says she'll get cloudberries for her because her mom really liked that. So, and then we get an epilogue. And they open the box and two shadows pop out. All right, and that's it. So I have so many questions. So if Wendy is dead, how is her line still there? Are they the sister? Is that the line that they're going? But it said Wendy is her great grandmother, so that has to be Wendy's line. But she was in love with Peter, so that would have to mean that Peter was her like great grandfather, right? I mean, really removed, but still, right? And if Tink was so in love with Pam, right, to even kill somebody that she loved, that he loved, she had 3 kids and a husband. Okay? 3 kids and a husband, but she was in love with Peter. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. I don't know. But it was a ride. And I feel like Loki, you know, in Ragnarok in the beginning, where he's like, I've been falling for 30 minutes. That's how I felt. There was no ups, you know, like it was just right, and full of just downs. And I couldn't with this book. I tried to get into it. I tried to be like engrossed, but every single time when I did, something just in my mind was like, it doesn't click. It doesn't make sense. It's not rationalized. It doesn't matter what people say. Like, you know, like I'm getting things repeated, and when things are repeated like that for me, like I'm a smart reader. So when things are like thrown back at me, like she's 18 and he lost his shadow and the island is dying, and he lost his shadow and the shadow is dying, and she's 18 and she's frail and she's it gets repetitive and it gets boring. You know, like it takes me out of the book instead of just keeping me in there. Like as soon as I was like deep into it, it was like, and I'd get sucked right out of it, and I'm just like, okay, I'm not in this world. Like hell, but you know. Share your thoughts and feelings on the book if you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you're like me and you're like, I don't know what to make of it. It all around was just like a like I'm glad I finished it. And this was we're here for the vibes, right? We're here for the vibes. This was a vibe. This book is a vibe for sure. What vibe? I have no clue. But it was a vibe. And I will say, I didn't take this book very seriously. I took it as more of like a funny, light-hearted book. Like I was just like, this is satire. This is funny, right? That was the only way that it made it fun for me personally, was to think of like every scene that was spicy time was like a satire, like making fun of all the other serious scenes that are out there. You know, but this book had so much potential. This book had so much potential to be something, to do something more with the world, to do something more with Peter, to do something. I mean, granted, this is the first book. I haven't read the other 3, but this book is supposed to make you want to read the other ones, and it didn't. It lacked that. For me, it lacked that. I don't want to read the other ones because it was just like a. I couldn't connect with Winnie. I just couldn't. Like, I get it. She's not like me, you know. I don't think there's a lot of girls out there that read that she is like, you know. But I was here because I just loved Peter Pan so much. And it had so much potential. You could do so much with that. You could go so many outlets, so many avenues. And it just took that one that was like, maybe not. Like, it was like, here's one that you should take, and it'll probably get you somewhere, and it'll probably be good, and it'll be fascinating, but ba-ba-de-ba. But this one's not going to do much. And it was like, that's the good choice. That's the one. And I'm just don't understand. But, yeah. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for those who watched it all, and thank you for being a part of this journey and listening to my rambles. I hope it was good for you if you're driving or, you know, just without kids and all that stuff. I very much appreciate you taking this time, and I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on it. I am very new Like I said, this is my first video. Anything that you would want to hear more of like thoughts, anything that you think would help me in a nice way. We're not here to be like, oh, you suck. I'm like, I know, I get it. It's my first video. It's gonna suck. Thanks. Like, I get that. We're gonna just keep you out. But if you have like, oh, I think you should, do this, or maybe this will help, or tips, or advice, or just, love your video. Oh, look, Darth Vader back there, or, ooh, look at those sweethearts, something, that would be really great. I would really appreciate that. Bye, guys.